Let me do a little introduction about myself. Innovation Manager with the Bridgestone Americas, and we are in the corporate manufacturing organization. My group provides services to the plants. We have 14 tire plants in North America, Latin America. Our services are in mechanical design engineering, electrical engineering, and also we do building design. So we are considered as the force multipliers for the plants engineering with the services that we provide and the e-tools or the tools that they use. And also we leverage 3D models and assets to use for the digital twin creation and for the XR and simulation. So we create efficiencies for the plant. And also what I want to do today is to go through a quick overview of what we learned as we deploy XR technology and how we ensure that it's a scalable mindset that we ensure in the plants and as we grow it in the plants. So as agenda for today, I'm going to go over the overview, also going through some business needs, strategy that we did, also solution implementation, and finally with some lessons learned on how we did the implementation or how we thought about it from the start or from the designing phases till the end. So to start is, we have, you see the Gartner Impact Radar for 2024, but if we think about Bridgestone, everything starts with scanning a plant, scanning the machines. We reverse engineering those models. Sometimes we already have them or we design them already, but usually the plants we scan the as-is conditions and also create digital spaces to use the digital tools that we have and utilize them in the plants also as well. So we integrate machine designs and products into the digital layouts and use XR for visualization and also for smart spaces and doing more digital twins down on the road. Our XR technology deployment includes, as I mentioned, tire plants, but we also have distribution centers and also we have field engineers that are not actually bounded to any location. We started first with the HTC Vive, which was the very, very early headset that was released. In fact, it was before I joined Bridgestone. They used it for design review back then. And things were like mostly in-house build. It was like more like project types applications. And then we started to look at the HoloLenses. So we were the first adopters. That helped a lot in doing collaboration, remote support between the field engineers, doing tires inspection with the dealerships also. So that's kind of what we started also. And another emerging use case that we started to look into is training the workforce. So we added that as well. A lot of these projects, as I said, have been or never grew, and this usually because they were done in kind of a project style thing due to the problem quality and also the solution quality that we employed at the very early stages. But they have value. They created some excitement and people wanted to use them more and more. So when we talk about a problem quality, for example, is when you have a solution that doesn't have enough KPI. So you started a very simple one just to generate, yeah, it's cool, but doesn't have enough KPI. So that's when things doesn't grow or get discontinued. Or when you have a solution quality, you solved a very critical problem, but the methods that you used to do that was a little not enough to build scalability or too easy to repeat. So in our mindset is what do we need to do to overcome those two problems as we think how we want to implement the XR more wisely and so we can leverage it for more a scalable solution. So the first step is basically to develop a strategy. So we're developing XR solution that is tied to our business. So KPI that drives the value for our customers. When I talk about customers, mainly is our internal customers, but also we have the end users also as well, or the dealership at the retail stores as also. So that's how we actually looked at it. Also, how we do it is by identifying the use cases, rebuilding our practices. Bridgestone is very well known about the standards, engineering standards, training standards. So these are the core Bridgestone practices for making a tire or building a tire. And we identify areas of the XR based on those standards. Where we want to use the XR? Where is the biggest value for using it? So we looked into that also as well. We developed solution for immersive use, leveraging existing 3D models or also creating new ones. Not necessarily we're creating models just because we want to do the XR, because we want to digitalize everything in the plant. We want to head into the industry 4.0. And then we roll out the XR. It's simple. Sometimes is what we usually like to use is think big, start small, and then scale fast. So that's kind of the strategy that we also looked at. We choose scalable solution as much as we can because right now we're at the point where we want to be able to use those applications globally. We want to simplify them so end users can use them much easier. And we always measure the outcomes and capture those business values that we want to achieve. Whether these are success stories or sometimes if we want to measure KPIs, we let the end users measure those and provide them if they want, or if they want to highlight success stories, that's great. That works really well also. And how we control and change measurement is by educating everyone from the end users up to the leadership on how we want to use the XR technology, what's the benefits, what's the values. It requires a lot of networking, connections, internally and externally, partnering with people. So there's a lot of things that define our XR process roadmap. And everyone knows Bridgestone for making the tires. But making the tires in how we think about it is a blend of art and science using engineering practices. And Bridgestone is a sustainable company that requires great people with processes and technologies. And that's really how we tie the XR rollout in, we tie it with the business needs. For example, reducing efficiency, increasing efficiency and reducing the waste. And also grow with the people and focusing on how the people want to grow, how they want to provide the value to the company. So that's how really we tied it within the Bridgestone goals first. So it's kind of going from top down and be able to use it, leverage it everywhere. So we were able to do multiple POCs that moved quickly into a pilot because we have the support. And then also we moved it to scaling. We used a crawl, walk, run model. That was very effective for an incremental rollout. It empowered local SMEs and champions as every location we choose it and then we incremental adding XR experiences or doing design reviews. That actually helped a lot in kind of ramping up the experiences and the usage at certain location. But also we looked at how we want to scale horizontally across multiple plants. So we run multiple pilot programs at the same time. So we're not actually getting the KPIs or the value from one location. We're actually getting it from different sources at the same time. And we also get better understanding on what people value the most. Everyone have different ways of providing those values or how they see the values. Although we have the same machine in one plant, it is not actually the same way it's used in a different one, for example. And that actually changes from one location to another or from one group to another. The second thing we do is by starting by identifying the applications. This is across our manufacturing place. So you got to think about what is the applications that I want to target in the plants or in our organization that has the biggest value. So we started with the training and simulation, for example, step-by-step instructions using our training and engineering standards and converting them into more like steps for the end user that they can use clearly in an immersive environment. And also we've been doing design reviews And the prototyping, as I mentioned, we're part of a designing group that does mechanical design, machine design, or even building expansion or building designing. So we use that a lot to optimize the processes, to understand how we want to do those layouts in a digital mindset. And as well as we're building those machines, we're building the plants. There's the maintenance and the procedures, how to maintain and how to troubleshoot things in the plants. So training the maintenance team or the engineering in our plants, how to use the technology and how they actually speed up the process of troubleshooting. And of course, there's the collaboration piece that comes with every piece of those things. So we add collaboration tools in all of these applications that we rolled out. So this slide is about how we start with the customer. So we really start with the very end customers first. We capture their input on what they want to use it and how they want to use it. So usually the customers provide some information, but we want to make sure that we are converting those into measurable or quantify those information. Once we quantify their information, we understand exactly what they're looking for, and that's what we're doing. And that process is really called the capture of the voice of the customer first. Spending so much time at the very beginning in the planning phase helps a lot to speed up if you're doing a proof of concept, you can easily move to a pilot very quickly. And then we build a solution based on those requirements that we identify. It helps us into maximizing the value. That's really literally what we've seen in some of these projects. So some of the consideration when you start looking at the XR tools, whether it's a hardware or a platforms that you're using. So if you're doing a platform, for example, you might want to think about modular design. You might want to look at, okay, that particular platform, it does a design review for me, but also it provides, certain other features or does different use cases. So these type of things we started to look at. We looked at the performance, so we benchmark more performance. Does it perform well? Do the users feel some kind of nausea or something? Is the frame rate acceptable? And also we focus on the end user experiences. We're talking about the user interface. Is it good enough? Because you got to simplify it as much as you can when you deliver it to the end users who you will end up having users using the technology for the first time. You want to make it as intuitive as possible, especially if you're talking about training side. If you're talking about maybe engineering, yes, you might want to spend a little bit of training on how they use the technology before they start using efficiently for design reviews. So there's things that you got to look at, and also how you want to integrate it with the existing systems, where your data is coming from, how your CAD models are coming, which tools you're using. Do you have a process how you simplify them, make sure they are available, they can easily be imported, and also look at the security, how you can secure things, what's the policies, all of that you got to look at for XR considerations, whether it's a platform or if it's even a hardware. So I'm going to go through a case study on how we actually benchmark one of the tools that we're really very happy about. So we looked at multiple systems. And for a training platform, we're actually doing it also for other platforms as well, but this is just a case study. And we looked at the end user experience, compared multiple systems, solution before selecting the system. So the biggest one from this selection is that we made it very simple. When you do a content creation, there's no code required. And also it's a device agnostic. It's just because devices changes every time. You gotta make sure that you're able to be able to move freely from devices to another, and you have a refresh cycle of these devices. I'm pretty sure everyone, or most people does that. And it's also easier to measure the KPI. So we provide the tools where you can track users, you can track usages. The biggest thing about the usage is if you don't use it, it is difficult to know what the KPIs are. Not necessarily you want to actually measure every single KPI, but you got to use it to be able to know what the benefits. So we try to track the users and also provide assessment tools for the end users, how they track their people who go through the training. So here's a video of what I just explained. So usually the XR training starts with SME. The SME creates the steps themselves. We let the end users create the steps, and then they partner with my team to combine those steps that are created in the system with a 3D models. So we combine those together, and then we give it to them. They use what they call it a user acceptance test. They look at it, okay, they verify it, they check mark it, and they put it into production. The complexity of our machines are, it's pretty complex. We're talking about millions of polygons. We have 30-foot by 30-foot machines, or even larger than that, with a lot of hardware. We cannot show it today just because of, usually because of the security that we can't show our machines. But the idea is with the XR training is we don't slow down production due to training. That was a bigger win. And also for the design review scenarios, we can always, we found that we can speed up the process with less prototyping. Those were the biggest wins when we used this type of approach once we're selecting systems. So I'm sure everyone, as I said, have their criteria on selecting XR devices, but the key point here is how you standardize on the devices, how you are always on the lookout for new devices. So you gotta have the mindset of every certain period of time, I wanna refresh the devices. So we look at performance versus use cases, of course, integration with instructions, and I think it went here, okay. Software compatibility and the ease of development as well. Okay, so now you selected your tools and you already have both the cool factors from the software that you selected, and you also have the value factors. But what happens over time is your cool factors become basic expectations, and the users are asking for more features. They want to do more with the tools that you deployed. So this is what we do actually. And if you look at the right side, think about it like we act as a call center. They call us, they tell us, well, I want to do this thing, or I want to be able to do more things with the tool that you deployed for me. So we are constantly doing a customer-driven process and constant improvement to the tools that we deployed. Whether if it is a tool that we got from a supplier, or whether it is something we can do in-house to improve it. It requires, as I said, partnerships with internally or externally with suppliers, and sometimes you might want to think about growing your team, deployment team. You might want to think to have a developer on the team or a programmer that helps in doing that efficiencies or the workarounds that you can do to create those scenarios. And this is how we do the process. Again, this is another case study. So that's what we do in how we create a process. And we adapted it with the plants. The plants actually use a process. Usually it's called a plan, do, check, act. It is for testing hypothesis. And then once they tested, validated, they improve it. And it is a cycle. It's a cycle that they keep doing that. And what we did is we adapted to their style on how they do things in the plant. So we created the content creation process goes through that process also as well. So we always create those training instructions with the SMEs from the plants. We validate them, we check them. Oftentimes, they find room for improvements. And they tell us, well, I would like to make this better, or I want to make the material, or the design doesn't look well, or I want to highlight certain things. So we are constantly improving that. And then we validate it. And after we validate it, we tested this across multiple locations with different applications. It worked very well, and they loved it. So we kept using it, and we're happy with it. And here's our vision on how we are thinking, how we want to do the XR across the organization. So we think we have an achievable vision to embed XR with our value chain for manufacturing for both the upstream and the downstream processes. So from the machine design, where it includes any assembly, disassembly procedures, as I said, we design every single hardware or component on the machine. We want to be able to use the machine in various different ways. So we could reduce the level of details if we just want to do a simple training, or if we want to do a very complex setup, or doing more like assembly process or replacement of parts. We want to be able to understand how we can disassemble the machine efficiently and train people how they do that also. And also from the building design. So what we do is we have scanners. We scan the building as is conditions, and then we start to do reverse engineering, and we import those machines and we build a digital layout. Once we have a digital layout completed, we have all the BOM or the bill of materials and everything. This is the time where we want to look at the operations side of things. So that's where XR training comes very useful, to bring the workforce and to accommodate the new styles in the workforce. So that's really what our vision is. And the key learning lessons that we had is just like everyone else. We encountered similar challenges, from the resistance to change and also to either the scope creep. And this is what we did to overcome those challenges, with, as I said, with incremental rollout plans or multiple pilots. We also worked with our subject matter experts in the plants. We make them champions and advocates and let them be the ownership for the tools that we deploy. They actually drive the usage and tell us what they want to do. And also always have a roadmap on and communicate it very clearly with your partners internally, so they know what the expectations, what they're looking for, so they don't give up on you. And as well, document the process and measure it constantly. You don't have to harass your customers, but at the same time, you might want to document it or maybe highlight some success stories. And again, you always have to measure, and also give yourself some time and pace yourself as you're doing that. Things will not be done really in a short time. It takes some time before you get the value from your customers. And with that, questions, please.
Didn't look like it. Looks, yeah, great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Pleasure being here.